saying you felt it.
Hi, Sarah. How are you? Didn't say hi before. How are you? Good to see you.
Greg? You know. He's so good. Thank you.
We have our last graduation party.
Give your stamp of approval.
Wow, after all this time, we finally have our last one. That's it. That's it. Should empty nesters. The last one. Moving to
Hey, Fred.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
That are handling.
Every time I look up, the clock is different.
Yeah, well, this
That
is a
different
permanent
clock,
one.
isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. See, this one has the Rybrook logo on it.
That one's harder to tell the time.
All right. Can you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you and good evening. Tonight is Tuesday, June 25th. It's a little after 7:30. We just came from executive session where we discussed police negotiations. Sorry, give me 1 minute. All right, the first item on our agenda is a resolution considering approving a memorandum of understanding and 2024 extension electric service agreement to continue to participate in community choice aggregation program managed by Sustainable Westchester.
Whereas the Village of Rybrook previously entered into an agreement with Sustainable Westchester for a community choice aggregation program, otherwise known as CCA, in Westchester County, which allows the village board to participate in the program with Sustainable Westchester, procure energy supply from energy services companies for the residents of the village. And whereas Sustainable Westchester wishes to renew the program with the Village of Rybrook, now therefore be resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the Memorandum of Understanding in furtherance of the Village of Rybrook's participation in the CCA program, and be it further resolved the Mayor is authorized to execute an energy service agreement in the form attached to the Memorandum of Understanding, subject to further review and revision by the attorney, which authorizes Sustainable Westchester to accept bids for energy service so long as the minimum requirements set forth in the Memorandum of Understanding and Resolution dated June 11, 2024 are satisfied. And be it further resolved, and there's different options, the way it's listed in this resolution is that you're considering joining or continuing with Sustainable Westchester. So if you didn't want to continue, you should vote against the resolution. But if you do want to continue, there's two options. One is a 50% renewable clean power product, and the other is a 100% renewable clean power product at this time, which can also be changed to 50% at a later date after the bids are open and the rates are available.
All right, thank you, Chris. And you know, personally, I've had a lot of thoughts on this. Oh, what just happened? Sorry. I've had a lot of thoughts on this. And you know, we've been part of the CCA program for a number of years with varied success. Certainly it ran into its biggest issues when they went for the last contract. That was right around when the war in Ukraine had started and energy prices were spiking. And we went through a few of the different components. Because we have to choose. So, you know, we went through. You know, we've been through a few iterations of this. We actually started as not green at all. We were in the brown program, which I believe they're no longer offering.
They don't offer it. No, it's no longer allowed to be offered.
And so, oh right, it's not. You know, at our last meeting, there was a presentation from Noam Bramson, who's the executive director of Sustainable Westchester, and we got a lot of useful information out of that. To me, in my personal opinion, I like to give our residents as many choices as possible. And by participating in the CCA program, we're giving extra choices because at that point, residents always have the option to opt out of the program and go with the default Con Edison rates. They can also choose to go with their own ESCO, which some residents choose to do. And so in my personal opinion, in my mind, it makes the most sense to continue with the CCA program to give residents the greatest number of options. And given the information in the resolution that if we go with the 100% renewable, when the rates come out, we can opt down to the 50% renewable rate if we find it to be favorable enough for our residents. But if we go with the 50%, we do not, even if they come out exactly the same, or by some weird coincidence, the 100% renewable is less than the 50% renewable, there's no way that we could then opt into that program. So again, my personal opinion is to go with the 100% renewable at this time, because it gives us the most options and our residents the most options. And then when the rates come out, we still have the option to go down to the 50% renewable at that time before accepting into the program.
Well, you're still
correct?
accepting the program, you're just accepting either the 50 or the 100.
Right, before
can't opt out.
accepting the rate, we can still go with the lower of the two rates
Correct.
at that point. Whereas if we do the 50% now, that's what we're getting.
Yep. And the rates will be known, they estimate around July of this year, the end of July.
Yeah, and I'll certainly open this up to comment from the board. And I know there's going to be a lot of comments of, and residents really should be as informed as they possibly can. That they should, when this comes out, don't just accept it at face value. Take a look, see what's in your best interest and what you want to do for yourself. That this is putting everyone into a same category, but you always have the option to opt out or go with your own ESCO. And again, this is just giving a lot of different options to the residents. And the reason, as was stated in the last meeting, and we know from the past, the reason it becomes an opt-out program instead of an opt-in program is because that gives the greatest number of possible customers so that they can get the best rate possible when they're doing the negotiations. So I'd open this up to comment from the board.
Do you want to say something?
No.
I
Please.
do, yes. I certainly want to say thank you for explaining it so well, Mayor. But I want people to know that the opt-out is certainly something that they can engage in, but we provide them with an option for the green. And if we go that way, it provides you with the option. You have to analyze it, but do pay attention when the number comes out, because in the past, it has been higher than the Con Edison. And whether or not that is, it's really just pennies, but it does add up over time. And it does take in excess of 30 days to 60 days to opt out officially. So there's a time lag, and you could always get back in. That's the other thing. So I would imagine is the time lag also.
Right.
So pay
there
attention.
And there is no cost to opt out.
No.
It does not cost.
No, I never said there was. It's just
No,
time.
I'm
It's just a time.
pointing that out. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's wise, and if you believe in green, then it's the way to go, because they are going to probably be less than the other ESCOs.
Any other comments from the board? All right, so we do need a motion and a second on what it is that we're choosing. Again, it's my suggestion that we go with the 100% at this time, because that gives us the most options when the rates come out, once the bids are open. But, that's only my recommendation. I think we would need someone to make a
So
motion.
move for the dark greens to give us the most flexibility.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on that.
Okay, and just before you vote, I'll read that
Yes,
part of the
please do.
resolution, which is be it further resolved that the Village of Rybrook chooses the 100% renewable clean power product at this time as a default product for participating customers in the Village of Rybrook, which the Village Board can change to a 50% renewable clean power product after the bids are open and the rates and availability are known in approximately late July 2024.
I guess the only question I would have, and it's not really a question that you'll be able to answer, I think, Chris, is that
Thanks.
is about the timing and about, when we're gonna. I'm assuming we'll have sufficient time to act on this. I mean, because, we have one meeting at the end of July, we have one meeting at the beginning of August, and then we're not meeting again until September. So,
I guess it'll be the August meeting, I
Yeah.
would think.
all right, and we can
So-
always call a special.
So
meeting if we
technically,
need
we
to.
have time. They give us the number in July. We can publish it. We don't have to have a formal meeting, as long as we provide the literature and backup to the residents in some way.
Right. Well, I think we still need to vote on it because we'll need to
Yeah.
accept it. We'll need
Right.
to formally accept the rates. And I'm sure we'll yeah. So we'll cross that bridge.
If you don't act on it, it's going to be the 100%, because
Right.
you'd have to act to go to the 50%.
Right, so we'll make sure that we act on it one way or the other, because I also don't like just defaulting into something. That's,
Right.
think that's better.
Right, we're choosing it so we can choose. We're
Correct.
going with the
Correct.
dark green so that way we can
Can
opt
choose.
lower.
Yes.
correct,
Right, because we can't
Correct.
change it the other way.
correct. Okay.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
No.
and Mayor Klein.
Yes, thank you.
Good for you.
All right, resolution, oh, what's happening here? Resolution number 2. Considering approval of a stipulation of settlement between the Village of Rybrook and Unimak LLC for the construction of the Public Works and Parks facility.
Okay, whereas on March 4th, 2021, Unimak commenced an action against the Village of Rybrook, seeking to recover the approximate sum of $1.7 million based on allegations that the village breached the terms of a contract it entered into with Unimak for the construction of a new Department of Public Works and Parks facility at West William Street, otherwise known as the project. And whereas the village interposed an affirmative defenses and counterclaims dated May 28th, 2021, seeking to recover the sum of $1.552 and change from Unimak based on allegations that Unimak breached its terms of the contract entered into between the village and Unimak for the project. And whereas the village has withheld payment of approximately $934,074.75 under the contract with Unimak on this project, primarily due to roof leaks and remaining punch list items. And whereas the Village of Rybrook and Unimak have negotiated a stipulation of settlement that includes, but is not limited to, the payment of $934,074.75 to Unimak in accordance with the following terms and conditions. 1. The village shall release the withheld sum of release the funds, the withheld sum of $859,074.75 to Unimak upon the execution of the stipulation of settlement. 2. That the village shall withhold the sum of $75,000 from payment to Unimak to ensure their completion of the repair work required for the roof, and providing the village with written warranties covering the work, labor, and materials concerning the facility as set forth in the contract for the project. And 3, once the work is completed, the roof work is completed, including the installation of a waterproof membrane to areas of the HVAC curbs, pipes, valleys, the village will provide the payment of $75,000 to Unimak. By accepting this payment, and Unimak will have received a total settlement payment of $934,074.75. And upon written Unimak's completion of the repair work as set forth therein, Unimak and the village shall exchange general leases, and Unimak shall file in the office of the county clerk a written stipulation of discontinuance with prejudice, dismissing this action against the village, and that the Village of Rybrook hereby approves the stipulation between the village and the Unimak in the form attached hereto relating to the construction of the Rybrook Public Works and Parks facility located at 511 West William, subject to modification by council. Be it further resolved that the mayor and administrator are authorized to execute all documents necessary to accomplish the purposes of this resolution.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Do we want any background? I think it's pretty much straightforward.
Yeah, I'll give a brief background. So, as you know, we've been operating in the Public Works facility, and it's largely been great for us. The one issue we've had the big issue is with roof leaks periodically in areas of the building. Long story short, we've held back money from the project throughout the project so that we can make sure that we have a roof that doesn't leak. So we had independent consultants come in, they evaluated the roof. They're going to be adding a protective membrane, which will provide extra protection for the village over and above, that would help seal the roof and prevent further leaks in those areas where there's a penetration in the roof. So once the roof is not leaking anymore and the membrane is, by installing the membrane, we're going to be done with the project and we'll all be able to move on.
Great. Any questions or comments from the board? I know we discussed this also in executive session, so. All right. We have a motion and a second, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
and Mayor Klein.
Yes, thank you. Resolution number 3. considering adopting a scoping document pursuant to the seeker for an application submitted by Cone Purchase Building Company LLC for property located 975 Anderson Hill Road.
Okay, whereas the Board of Trustees is in receipt of petition submitted by Purchase Building Company on property located at 975 Anderson Hill Road, and whereas the property is in the location of the former Doral Arrowwood Conference Center, Hotel and Conference Center, and whereas the purpose of the requested text amendments to the zoning code concerning the PUD is to allow redevelopment of the property to include a new lodge that contains a hotel and conference center, approximately 220 hotel rooms, residential units, 40 units, ballrooms, restaurants, recreational and other facilities, and 3, a separate multi-residential building including affordable units, and sub 3, a wellness medical center office building that would also contain workforce units together with related amenities, landscaping, parking, and other site improvements. And whereas a concept plan has been submitted to the village along with the zoning petition, and whereas the Board of Trustees is the approval authority for the zoning petition, PUD concept plan, and PUD site plan, and whereas the described full environmental assessment form submitted with the proposed action includes the text amendments to the zoning code, and whereas proposed action is a type 1 action pursuant to seeker, and whereas on March 27, 2024, the applicant submitted a draft scoping document for the village as part of the preparation for a draft environmental impact statement, otherwise known as a DEIS, for review and acceptance by the lead agency pursuant to seeker. And whereas on April 24, 2024, the board authorized the circulation of its notice of intent to be the lead agency, according to seeker, had a public scoping session and comments could be received. It was referred to the County Department of Planning pursuant to the General Municipal Law and the County Administrative Code. And whereas the Board of Trustees received written comments on the draft DEIS scoping document from the County Department of Planning, City of Rye, Village of Rybrook Planning Board, Village Consulting Planner, Village Consulting Engineer, and Village Attorney. And whereas the Board of Trustees held a duly noticed public hearing on May 28th for the purpose of receiving public comment, and written comment period was extended to May 31st. And whereas the DEIS scoping document has been revised to incorporate those comments, now therefore be resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby adopts the annexed DEIS scoping document for the application submitted by Cone Purchase Building Company LLC for the redevelopment of the property at 975 Anderson Hill Road, and directs the preparation of a DEIS consistent with the scoping document. Be it further resolved, the Board of Trustees directs that the DEIS scoping document shall be circulated to all involved agencies pursuant to law. And be it further resolved, the Board of Trustees directs the scoping document shall be published in the New York State DEC Environmental Notice Bulletin pursuant to the requirements of law.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and second, please?
Second.
And we do have representatives from 975 Anderson Hill Road. I don't know if you wanted to make any comment or you're just here to observe.
Here to observe, happy to answer any questions.
All right. All right. Well, I first I would just want to say thank you to everyone who was involved in this. And one of the things that we pointed out at the last meeting is that really this becomes the village's document. But this is, while a lot of the research, a lot of the effort going into making this document is going to be from the applicant, really this is the village's document. So we want to make sure that this has everything in it that we think should be in here. And we received a number of comments from our staff, from consultants, from the public. You heard from this board as well. All trying to make sure that things that we wanted covered would be covered. And again, for the public watching, that this is really just the start of this process. What we're doing here is setting the scoping document, what it should include. The scoping document isn't anywhere near complete, the document is complete. The EIS, the DEIS isn't anywhere near complete. This is what's going to set the DEIS in motion to start that all of those studies, everything that needs to be in there. We're just kind of making the table of contents, for lack of a better word. And so, this document will start to move forward. There will be many opportunities for public comment along the way. That this is just the beginning of the process. This will go before many boards. It'll go before the planning board. It'll go before the village board again. It will eventually go through ARB. But this is something that there will be many opportunities for the public to comment on and many opportunities for potential change in the project itself as this project progresses. Too many pros there. So, you know, we're thankful for again, all of the staff and consultant time that went into this. We know there's a lot, and all of that's really to make sure that we're protecting the village as much as we can, making sure that everything's in there that we would want in there.
Yep. And again, if I could just add to it's always been we always make sure it's a very transparent process for our residents. So everything that we receive goes onto our website under our project development page. And so whether that be from the applicant, our consultants, our comments from the public, you know, everything goes on there. After this document gets posted, there won't be too much on it and additional until the DEIS gets prepared. But once that gets on it, there's going to be plenty to read.
I'll just,
Go ahead, Jennifer.
yeah, sure. I was just going to add one more thing. I just want to make sure that the board understands that its consultants, both my office, Sarah Brown's office, and your consulting engineer's office have reviewed all of the comments. We had a conference call last week with the applicant and their consultants to go over a couple of last items. But we did vet all of the comments that you received from the county, from your planning board, from all of our offices, from the city of Rye, to confirm that those comments were addressed in the scoping document. There were, I don't know what that,
Give us
I
feedback.
think it's
Yeah.
because there's a speaker somewhere, you're just
Yeah.
picking up feedback.
there were two comments I want to note from the county's letter
Right.
that were not incorporated, and I'm sure the applicant can address that as well. We had no objection, our office had no objection to those not being incorporated, and those were the county's comment that the project should include no residential units whatsoever because of its proximity to the airport, and then also a recommendation to consider universal design. And either Sarah or the applicant can explain universal design much better than I can. But those are two things I wanted to make sure the board understood were not incorporated. Everything else was in there.
And Mayor and Board of Trustees, I'm not going to deal with universal design. I
I don't blame you.
But with respect to the alternative of no residential whatsoever, seeker is guided by our standard of reasonableness and the regulation, the seeker handbook specifically says. The seeker handbook and the regulations specifically say that not every alternative has to be studied. It has to be consistent with the applicant's goals and objectives. And here, the residential is certainly a key component of the project, both within the lodge and the standalone residential building, which is why we didn't include it as an alternative. We did include as an alternative the reduced height alternative, as well as a super green or super environmentally sensitive, sustainable alternative. So those are the alternatives that are in the scope that will be studied in the DEIS. And I don't know if Sarah or Diego want to address universal design. I just learned about it a half hour.
I'm happy to touch base on it first, and then if you want to, without getting into too much detail, it's not a common practice that we utilize on a regular basis with design. There's guidelines that have been published from the county that looks at really accessibility. It wants to look at interconnectivity between the different uses on the property to make sure that it's all accessible for any age group, any person with any specific disability, things like that. That was referenced in the document itself. All of these are already incorporated into the design. We are looking at a wellness center. I can't emphasize that enough. Accessibility requirements are all built in throughout the overall design. We have law obligations, ADA accessibility requirements that require us to look at those accessibility features, whether it be grab bars in bathrooms, accessible units that a certain number of them need to be accessible. All of these things are incorporated into the design. So again, it just is it's a document that's out there. It's not a document that multiple people are very familiar with, including ourselves. It's just not a tool that we utilize on a regular basis because there are other tools that are out there, such as ADA accessibility requirements and your zoning code that we have to comply with on a regular basis, all of which is incorporated into the scope and is a design feature that's part of this project. So.
Thank you.
So Sarah has something.
No, I can just add to that. I will second what Diego said. It's not something that's used very often. We have an office full of planners and none of us have actually ever used that term.
Yeah.
But that being said, the actual definition is an environment that's accessible, usable, convenient, and a pleasure to use, so everyone benefits. So that's what we're going to be looking at anyway, and those will all be incorporated. So by default, we're including universal design.
Okay.
That is not valid.
Yeah, and you know, but I keep saying this. I'm going to say it again. You know, I really want to thank everyone involved in this. You know, I think that we're certainly not engineers up here. You know, we're tasked with trying to make decisions in the best interest of the community, and we rely heavily on our consultants and our staff. And you know, and what makes it easier on us and what makes us able to make good decisions is having that support and having really capable and really capable consultants and staff. And so I just want to thank everyone for the time that they put into this, because I can only speak for myself, but it certainly makes me a lot more comfortable accepting a scoping document, knowing how many times this has been poured through and looked at and dissected, and we know we're getting something that will be what the village wants.
Mayor, I could just echo that, right, as the representatives on behalf of the applicant. I assure you that consultants have been thorough, but also a pleasure to deal with, and we also are appreciative of everyone's efforts, as well as your board. The comments we received a couple of weeks ago at the public hearing just shows how much care and thought your board put into the scoping document and making sure that we have all the technical issues that we need to address during the process. So
Yeah.
we also thank you all and staff.
And I think one of the things that binds us all together up here is a deep caring for the village of Rybrook. And we're always looking out for the best interest. Comments from the board? Nope. No. All right, seeing none, I think we do have a motion and a second to accept the
Yep.
scoping document.
You have a public, somebody here from the public.
I don't know what they're here for. I mean, does anyone else want to speak to this matter? Okay. All right, Craig.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes, looking forward to it.
Yes. Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
and Mayor Klein?
Yes, and you have your work ahead of you, and we look forward to a very large document that I'm gonna have to spend hours reading. So,
What is the time?
days, yeah, not days, hours,
know what the
4
timing
days.
is?
But at least a few months. Have a good summer.
September?
You too
Oh,
have a
it's
good
not-
summer.
We work.
There's no way.
The document, you have to remember there's 2 steps to this process. The first one is submitting it for completeness, so your consultant and your staff will review it for completeness with the scoping document. There will be several rounds of back and forth from that standpoint, and so there's a lot of iterations of this document before it's going to be in a position to be accepted as complete. So I don't expect you guys to see the first draft, I would say, for at least 3 to 4 months.
Right, and then even once we receive drafts, it will be in front of this board for a
Oh,
while.
You're gonna need time to
100%.
review it.
But
Yeah,
There's
because it
back
will
and
need-
forth.
Yeah.
You're
before
gonna
it
need
gets
time to
approved.
digest it before, yeah, absolutely.
There's a
before
lot of
it's on.
rounds of comments before it's gonna be considered complete.
Right, and I would just, and then one thing that always stuck with me from when we've done this in the past, that I would also remind is that we have to remember that this is a third-person document, that this is going to be of stating facts, not the opinions of the person writing the document,
Yeah.
which we've run into in the past, and we've had to revise, so.
Be mindful of that.
Great,
All right, thank you.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Have a
you.
good
A lot of that
summer.
the last round. Yeah,
What?
A lot of that the last
A
round.
lot of that, yeah, a lot of that. So, and actually, no, and I'm remiss in reminding. I should have said this earlier in the meeting, but it is now currently 8:07. For anyone eligible, there is 53 minutes left to vote if you have not already. And so the polls are open, many in Rybrook, and
They close at 9.
they close at 9. And yeah. for those who didn't take care of it.
So make haste.
Yeah, if you're eligible. Not everyone is, so.
Bye-bye, thank you.
All right, moving on, resolution number 4, considering approving road paving list under contract number 2305.
Whereas on May 25th, 2023, the Board of Trustees approved Contract 23-05, paving for the Village of Rybrook streets.
Is this
And-
23? 20,
Yep, it's 23. I'll explain it in a sec.
Thank you.
And on June 27th, 2023, the Board of Trustees approved the alternates A and B for Contract 23-05 to allow for public contract extensions through May 31st, 2026. And whereas the Village of Superintendent of Public Works wishes to continue to pave additional roads in the Village of Rybrook under this contract, and whereas the Superintendent of Public Works has identified several roads in the village that require repaving under the contract, including Acker Drive, Arlington Place, Concord Place, Hillcrest Avenue, Iron Hill Avenue, Knollwood Road, Maywood Avenue, Meadowlark Road, Newton Avenue, North Ridge Street, Rockridge Drive, and Woodland Avenue for an estimated cost of $605,498.57. Now therefore be resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the road paving work recommended by the Superintendent of Public Works under contract 23-05.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and a second, please?
Second.
And speaking of being entrusting our consultants and our staff, certainly I know, Michael has presented a few times on his paving plan, and this is a continuation of that paving plan, which so far has been yielding good results. I think,
Yeah.
the new style that has been brought to the village, people originally, I think, were a little
It's an adjustment.
hesitant about it, and it's an adjustment. I mean, that's what happened on my street, was that
Yeah.
we got that new style, but what we're looking for is efficacy. We're looking for the most efficient use of village funds to cover the most amount of territory and keep our streets in good shape, because that's the ultimate goal.
And that is, and it is, we've changed a lot the way we do our streets, as we've talked about. The roads, we've gone through the programs at Cornell where we've done different types of resurfacing. We follow a different software program where we are able to rate the streets to make sure we're investing enough money to increase our rating over time. And that's why our budget always reflects at least $500,000 for road resurfacing every year, which is a substantial investment. It's really about half of our capital program, just under half of the cost that we put into capital every year. And that is it's a good way to do it, but it's also the changes that we've done is different type of services for different applications on roadways based also on the condition of the road. So you're not always doing the worst roads bottom up. You're doing it, so you want to do some of those, but you also want to maintain the roads that are starting to deteriorate earlier in a different way, at a less cost way, so that then you can extend those roads for much further. So otherwise you're always chasing it. You're always chasing the worst roads, and they deteriorate much quicker. So it's been very successful. It's been very helpful having Michael is now a Roadmaster 4 through Cornell. And part of that is also his requirement is to do some teaching up at Cornell. So Michael would have been here tonight, but he broke down on the way back from teaching our classes today. So
I wasn't driving one of our cars.
no, he was. Yeah, up
Which
to-
he has
from
no one to blame
Binghamton.
but himself. if
Nope.
that was-
It wasn't a new one, was
So
it?
he's on his way back. No, it was an old one. Otherwise, he would have been here. So, yeah, so he really does a nice job balancing it out. And overall, it's been successful, as the mayor said, in terms of increasing the overall ratings of our road system, which has been a goal for a number of years that we can continue to kind of stick with over time.
Great. Thank you. Do we have a motion in a second?
We do.
We do, okay. Any questions or comments from the board? I'm having trouble keeping track of those tonight for some reason. Any questions or comments from the board?
No.
Heat.
All right, Greg.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you, and we'll thank Michael once he gets back, hopefully.
And some of it may be segments of those roadways, too. I'm not sure if they're all entire of those roadways.
Right,
but
it
yeah.
is, and looking at some of the backup materials, it seems to be, it's definitely segments
Yeah.
within, although
Yep.
I didn't, Metal Arc was mentioned, but I didn't see that in the,
Yeah.
in the.
I don't, that's the one I'm not sure if that's
Yeah,
a
I
long
think-
stretch,
I think it was just,
a section.
well, no, I didn't see it in the backup materials as a road that was being, just as a marker for between.
Okay.
On different other roads.
Yeah, I couldn't
Well-
speak to that.
We'll see. So, all right, resolution number 5, thank you. Considering acceptance of a grant from the New York State Homes and Community Renewal Risk Program to complete a benefit cost analysis for the Avon Circle Portchester Middle School flood mitigation project.
Whereas the Avon Circle and Portchester Middle School field area have been prone to flooding in previous storms and instances of large amounts of stormwater, and whereas the Rye-Brook, Portchester School District, and the town of Rye have previously signed intermunicipal agreements that led to the preparation of a flood mitigation project prepared by DRE, it should read, AI Engineering, in the estimated amount of $8,211,132, and whereas the village has already been approved for a $3.8 million grant for this project through the county, leaving an unfunded balance of $4,441,132, and whereas the village of Rye-Brook has been awarded a grant up to $200,000 from the New York State Homes and Community Renewal Risk Program to complete a benefit cost analysis for this flood mitigation project to assist the village in applying for grants for the balance of the funding needed for this project. And whereas the village of Rye-Brook seeks to accept the grant from New York State Homes and Community Renewal Risk Program, now therefore be resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby accepts the grant award up to $200,000 from the New York State Homes and Community Renewal Risk Program to complete a BCA for the flood mitigation project. Be it further resolved, the mayor and administrator are authorized to sign any documents necessary to accomplish the purposes of this resolution.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion second, please?
So moved.
Second?
I mean, this is, I'm really glad to see this. I know some of the, and Chris, maybe you can explain this better, but I know some of the grants are, you know, that it's a requirement to have this cost-benefit analysis as part of it.
Yeah, and we've really struggled on grants not having this completed in great detail, and there's consultants that really are familiar with the BCAs to really make sure we can try to hit the targets, because if you can't show a 1-to-1 ratio on costs versus savings, then you're not eligible for the grant. So you really have to prove that. So that's why if we're able to show a 1-to-1 ratio here, and a lot of it's public, either school property or private property, so we don't always have the information for us. So we need to, we need to try to get somebody to help us with that part of the project. It is up to $200,000 grant, and the good news is there's no match. So we're very pleased to be able to present this opportunity for the village. And the school district's getting a little anxious because they would like to see some improvements on the field.
Right.
So they're getting concerned a little bit, like, we want, if this doesn't happen, in a reasonable amount of time, then they're going to have to do something with the field
Right,
to
they're gonna have
make
to
it
do
playable.
something
Yeah.
and then make up the
And that would
cost a little bit.
that would make us not be able to do the other projects. So
Right.
They want to help the community, but at the same time, they also need to
Right.
take care of the facility.
Right. Well, hopefully this helps move us along. I know this is a great project. The
Yes.
project itself is a great project that would yield significant results for
For
downstream
Avon.
flooding
For Avon.
and for
It would help Avon. Won't do too much downstream, but it'll help for Avon. That's
Right.
what this would solve.
And so, we'd love to see this move forward. So anything that gets us farther along this path is helpful. Any questions or comments from the board?
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser? Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
And Mayor Klein.
Yes, thank you. Keeping with the flooding theme, considering acceptance of a grant and consultant through the Long Island Sound Resilience Planning Support Program for a study for flood mitigation at Rich Manor Park.
Whereas Rich Manor Park has been prone to flooding in previous storms and instances of large amounts of stormwater, and whereas Rye-Brook has been searching for additional ways to mitigate flooding and stormwater hazards in Rich Manor Park, and whereas Rye-Brook has been awarded a grant in the amount of $110,970 from the Long Island Sound Resilience Planning Support Program to study additional flood mitigation at Rich Manor Park with no matching funds required by the village. And whereas the grant stipulations include the village must utilize SLR engineering, landscape architecture, and land surveying to complete the scope of work detailed in the grant. And whereas the village of Rye-Brook seeks to accept the grant from the Long Island Sound Resiliency Planning Support Program and accepts their selection of SLR engineering as required in the grant app stipulations. Now therefore be resolved that the Village of Rye-Brook Board of Trustees hereby accepts the grant award in the amount of $110,970 from the Long Island Sound Resilience Planning Support Program to study flood mitigation at Rich Manor Park. Be it further resolved, the Village of Rybrook Board of Trustees hereby approves utilizing SLR engineering to conduct the scope of work detailed in the grant, and be it further resolved, the mayor and administrator are authorized to sign any documents to accomplish the purposes of this resolution.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and second, please?
So moved.
Second.
And again, this is, taking a look at what can be done to help with flooding in Rybrook and therefore helping downstream as well.
Can I comment a little
Please.
bit? So we're actually very excited about this whole look, and I'll call it revisiting Rich Manor Park, because as you know, back in 2002, Dolph Roadfed Engineering did a study of the whole eastern branch, and we really accomplished we implemented all the projects that were recommended in that study from north to south. We started in the north, worked our way from King Street Fields, where we started in underground detention, all the way down to Hidden Falls. So we've done that whole area, and that was when the detention basin was built at the corner of Meadowlark and Bluebird Hollow, right there. So that's when we built that basin there. That was the project in that area. That basin helps a lot during storms, but it still does flood in that area. It still gets overloaded. So the question is, what else can be done? And the village board has said in the past, maybe we can restudy this area now and say, is there anything else that can be done? Different types of projects. Some may be more, I would say, bigger change to the area. Some may be lesser of a change, but find out what those options are. So this study will help us present and relook at this information and say, okay, you've done this. Now we can look at the conditions now and say what else can be done. So it's a nice opportunity. Step B of this is, after this study is done, if we need more work to be done on a BCA analysis for one of those projects, if we like them, we have the grant that we just talked about, the risk grant. They're going to give up to another $200,000 to do that project. We actually got awarded 2 grants for the same project area.
Wonderful.
Wow.
So, but we're required under that program to do this one first.
Of course.
Okay.
So,
And this was through
through our grant consultant.
yes, excellent, which I want
Yeah.
to commend them again
Yeah,
on
no,
that.
they're doing
So-
great. On a good run.
And you, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, and really something, that is a major issue in Rybrook.
Yeah.
That we've dealt with, and again, keeping with the theme of giving residents options, we've have the NRCS program that is moving right along, and we're getting into closings.
Getting right to closings, yeah.
Yeah, we're getting into
Next
closings
month.
with that. We continue to look as a village. We continue to look at as many options as we can to help reduce the effects of stormwater on the community and downstream. So
Now, the
this is
unusual part of this grant is they select the engineering firm through their competitive process, but they also pay directly. So, and again, there's no match, so.
All right, let's work.
And
for us.
the one they selected, the firm they selected is one that did a study of this area for the New York State already, so
Wonderful.
it's a good thing.
Great.
All right. Any questions or comments from the board?
No, congratulations.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
and Mayor Klein.
Yes, thank you. Resolution number 7, considering an agreement with Westchester County for DARE Youth Officer Program reimbursement.
Okay, whereas Westchester County encourages municipalities to offer DARE Youth Officer programs, and whereas the Village of Rybrook has a DARE Youth Officer program, and whereas the county has prepared an agreement that will provide reimbursement for expenses to the DARE Youth Officer program up to $5,000. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Rybrook Board of Trustees hereby approves an agreement with the County of Westchester for reimbursement for the DARE Youth Officer program, subject to modification by council. Be it further resolved, the mayor and administrator are authorized to sign all documents necessary to accomplish the purposes of the resolution.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Always proud to be part of. Chief, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, just one quick thing.
Please.
Because of issues we couldn't control this year, we didn't have a DARE program, but we did start the school resource officer. So I rewrote the grant to finance the school resource officer program.
Great,
Oh, okay.
Okay?
great.
Great. And we did do a modified program. It wasn't an official DARE program, but we
Wasn't
did
DARE.
do some type of program with the elementary school.
Right, Sergeant Bruno did spend time in the school with the grades and talked about bullying and vaping and subjects that would come up in the DARE program, but it wasn't a DARE program.
Right. No, but my one of my kids was in it, so came home talking about it, and they always, both my kids now have been through some form of this. I mean, and it's been very positive.
Yes, it always is.
It's always
well
been,
received, yes.
yeah, it's always been very positive, well received by the students, and it's something that I think is important that we continue. So we're always happy to have this grant and have the funding. So thank you for everything that you've done for
Mrs.
this.
Taylor is hopeful to, is looking forward for the program to come back, and I told her that I am hopeful and planning on returning it, in January.
Absolutely, and we're gonna do whatever we can here to help get back to that place
And I think
where we have the
and-
proper staffing.
And I think
to-
we'll be in a better position this year than we were last year to do it.
Wonderful,
Great.
wonderful. Thank you. Questions or comments?
No.
Oh, we don't have a motion and a second? Oh, it got cut halfway. Can I get a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
I didn't finish the sentence. All right.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
And Mayor Klein.
Yes, thank you, and possibly the shortest resolution I've ever seen on Village Board. Resolution number 8, considering modifying the dates of Village Board meetings in August.
Now therefore be resolved that the Village of Rybrook Board of Trustees hereby cancels the regular meeting scheduled for August 27th due to summer scheduling conflicts.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Yeah, and we typically cancel one meeting in August and one in December. This is just bringing us down to the single meeting in August. I personally have found that it's easier just to cancel one meeting instead of trying to find a date that works for everyone and rescheduling. I think we talked about this after the last meeting, and I think this works for everyone.
So which day is it?
We're canceling the August 27th, so it means it would be the August 13th, would be the date that we are actually meeting. So we'd be meeting on the 13th and then canceling the meeting on the 27th, instead of trying to find something in between that works for everyone and doesn't conflict with one of the other committee meetings. Or boards or committees or commission meetings. Okay?
Sure.
All right. Do we have a motion in a second? I'm asking this again. All right.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
And Mayor Klein.
Yes, thank you. Resolution number 9, considering approval of the minutes for the meeting held on January 23rd, 2024.
Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the minutes for the meeting held on January 23rd, 2024.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. Administrator's report.
Okay, just have several items I just want to touch on. So next week, we're going to be closed on July 4th. We'll send out the notice for sanitation modifications. We are open on Friday, July 5th, so some places have closed or not, or have different hours, so we will be open on July 5th. And also, I happen to mention it's our first Ice Cream Friday of the week, too. So we'll be of the month. So Ice Cream Fridays in July start. That's from 6 to 7:30 next Friday. Good way to start the holiday weekend, right? Or the weekend after the holiday.
Ice cream, where is this, so everybody knows?
Pine Ridge Park, 6 to 7:30 p.m. next Friday, July 5th.
6 to 7:30?
Yep.
Everybody hear that?
Yes.
And the other thing is village offices and the senior center are going to start summer hours this year. It's a new thing we're doing. That's going to be from July 8th to August 30th. And it really just affects for the public the Friday. So on every Friday between July 8th and August 30th, the village office is going to be closing at 2 p.m. So the employees are making up with shorter lunch times from Monday through Friday as well. They're cutting back the offices, and our senior center are cutting back the lunchtime hours by a half hour, and that 2.5 hours is then going to be off on Friday. So the board has graciously agreed. That was something the employees asked for, and the board has agreed to and said, let's do this on a trial basis for 2024, which has been communicated. And so we'll see how it goes for July and August, and then we'll bring it back, and we'll all see and talk about, how if it worked or didn't work, and, what kind of feedback we get. So we've been putting that out we'll put it out an email blast too, for now, we've done it on all of our websites and social medias and so forth. So we'll also put on email blasts, probably as it gets a little closer for email blasts, because people tend to look at them, not to look at them until it gets a little closer. The crosswalk at Ridge Street and at the Crawford entrance, just following up on that, we held a meeting with the town of Rye last week, and there was definitely consensus from everybody to put it on the northern side of the driveway. And there was a location just north of that seemed to work. The Traffic Commission also reviewed this issue, and they made comments, and I'll just summarize what their comments were. Some of the questions they asked was, if the wall option, opening the walls, or any historical significance, I don't think that's necessary. Looking at it, we've mapped it out, and it looks like we can do it in front of the wall. There's also how many people, they were wondering how many people actually cross on a daily basis or a weekly basis. Yeah, we might be able to look at that and just try to give peaks of time and do a little number crunching too that would provide information. What is the cost factor? Well, that's actually the next step. Now that we know where it would be and what is involved for the markings and the equipment, we're now costing it out, so we'll bring that back to the board once we have all that information. And do we need any additional street lighting? No, because it becomes activated. And how do we inform the public about it, which we'll do in all the ways we normally do it and try to reach people out. And we could even do variable message boards for a couple of days before just to alert as well. So there's different things we can do if the board wants to do that. But all to be decided later. I just want to kind of give an update on what steps have been taken. So we've met with the town of Rye, we've received comments from the Traffic Commission, and now the next step is to get pricing.
I saw that in.
Then we'll bring it back to you for more discussion and
That was in
hopefully
Dropbox.
approval.
You had some. I think you had some of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. okay, we'll see some.
Because it's public safety and it's important, are there any grants available for something like this?
I don't know if it'll be necessary. Let's cost it out and see how much it is.
Sure.
So the next step is we'll cost it out, we'll bring it back to you, and then we'll say, is this something we want to do now? Is this something we want to budget for next year? Is this something we want to look for grants for?
Great.
But the first step is let's see if there's agreement, which I think we have. Now we'll cost it out.
Okay.
Now we'll see the timing and approach. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. Other good news, we have two additional, the village, working with the school district, added 2 additional pickleball courts have been striped and added over at Ridge Street Elementary School. You have to bring your own portable nets there, or if you'd like, we've also purchased 3 nets for borrowing from our rec department. So if anybody wants to sign out pickleball nets, we now have 3 nets that can be signed out if people need to use their own. If not, they're very reasonably priced on Amazon if people want to buy their own net, and it comes usually with the paddles and so forth. So you could either get them from us, or you could get your own if you find that more convenient.
And they do that how?
What's that?
How do they find it?
How do you get it? We're going to be in the rec office for now. You have to sign it off. You have to come
People
in
have
and
to
get
have
it during
permits.
regular business hours, which is normally it's 8:30 to 4:30 here to sign it out. And you go right to the recreation department. And obviously in the summer hours, it'll end at 2 o'clock.
So they have to have it in before that time, or they can hold on
We'll
to it?
probably
Is
just
that why
let, they
we
could
have a
borrow
third net?
for a day or two. They'll come back the next day, I would imagine. Well, we just have to work out the details, but I imagine you borrow, if you rent it, probably can bring it back by the end of the next business day.
Did the school consider having one there? I know that they wanted to use it for after-school activities. Did they also buy a net for that purpose?
I don't know. I couldn't say for sure what the school has done on there for their students. I imagine they're buying their own or portables because they also use it as a basketball court.
Right.
So, right now, those are 2 more courts, and then we're going to have 3 more at Garibaldi. So we've already removed the nets. Now it's the problem of just getting the numbers. And the biggest problem is getting them, they're so backed up on doing these, trying to find contractors that will bid and do it quickly. That's
Got
the
it.
hard part.
Growing sport.
Yeah, it's a growing sport for sure. And I just want to thank the rec department, the park staff, and the public works staff for, I think, doing just a great job at the Rybrook birthday. That was really, it was a
Excellent.
challenge, it was a new thing, things we learned from and would do maybe different next year. But the weather really cooperated. If it was this past Saturday, I don't know if we'd have the same success.
Miserable.
It would have been miserable.
But things did align for that day, and I thought they did a great job. And not knowing what to expect. So we're glad a lot of
I
people
loved
came
the
out.
drone video too.
Yeah, that was neat.
That was with the music and everything.
That was
very
really
cool.
neat.
That
Yeah,
was very
I
cool.
agree. So that's all I have for
I
tonight.
thought it was great.
All right.
Yes, I've
Thank you.
received a lot of feedback, and everybody said it was incredibly
Yeah.
popular.
Yeah.
Why don't we do it here all the time?
We can.
Survey,
We
getting
can.
people's opinion.
We can. I think everybody knows the rec department, after every program they do, sends out a survey to all the participants, and then they review that, what feedback they get back with the rec council as well. It's good. All feedback's good, positive, negative, what can we work on? Any other ideas? These are things we look for. So we do a survey monkey after every program.
I think they should have a senior pie eating contest.
With the smaller ones, like what you brought.
With the small pies or the big ones?
Put that in the survey.
Thank you, Sal. You were a trooper. You did a great job.
Yes, that's right. And did you see a picture in the paper?
Yeah.
He did the pie eating again.
You want a copy of it? Okay.
All right.
Send you a text.
Any comments from the public?
Involved.
Seeing none, the next meetings of the Board of Trustees will be July 9th and July 23rd, 2024. Thank you and have a good night.
Good night.
Look at that. That clock's working good.
Mine's